Hello, everyone, and it is about 3:02, so we are going to go ahead and get started.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session on EDU on Air. My name is Patrice People, Technology Integration Coach at Ottawa Middle School in Ottawa, Kansas, and I am moderating this session for Lori Hauer. Lori is the Technology Integration Coach at Ottawa High School, and she is a Google for Education certified trainer. This session is going to focus on students using online portfolios.
Thanks, Patrice. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session of Google on Air, EDU on Air. And Patrice and I are both integration coaches at our respective schools. And we're excited to be here. I hope that your day has been full of information and lots of things that you can take back to your classrooms or to your schools or buildings or whatever works best for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. Please include any questions that you might have as we go through, and we will answer those as we go. And if we run out of time, we'll go ahead and type those responses off to you. So we'll make sure we're watching that. Patrice and I both are. So we're very glad you're here, and let's get started. The presentation, of course, is out on the Google EDU site. So if you want to go ahead and follow along, that would be great too. So let's switch over to that. And let's get started. I'm going to back up one screen, and if you'd like to reach out and find me on Twitter, my handle is there at the bottom. And as Patrice mentioned, we are both in Ottawa, Kansas, which is just south of Kansas City. So my passion for ePortfolios goes back to a prior student, and this is a photo of her, and this is actually my son. It's been several years now. And obviously they are showing their lambs at a local 4-H event. But Ellie was obviously in agriculture, and she was a senior who kind of needed to fill up her class for that next semester. So she ended up in my web design class, and she took to it immediately, and it was very introductory HTML code. So she went on to create a website that semester for all of her 4-H livestock. She then went on to Kansas State University and has created websites for the Rodeo Club, and also was able to help her church maintain their website. So when she started that process, she, in that class, there was no way she thought she would ever have that much opportunity to use web design skills. So I feel very strongly that our students are very comfortable with these skills, and that it really does empower them to learn how to use these digital tools, how to be digital citizens, and many other resources. So this afternoon, in our short time together, we're going to talk about some of the benefits, some of the examples of tools that you could actually use for teacher-managed sites. We're going to look at some examples of student-managed sites, some tools to get started, and then hopefully get to questions that you may have. So ePortfolios changes a student's perspective when they know that someone else is going to see their work. They want it to be good. And that speaks to the whole authentic audience, and hopefully provides them some motivation to make it more than just good enough that they might consider doing when it's just for the teacher. So as you can see in this image, these young students are very capable of using technology and creating artifacts for ePortfolios. So the whole conversation about what level to start with, it's really just when you're comfortable with, because I know many students have access to technology now. And our student panel that presented earlier today talked about all that they get to do with technology. So we're going to talk about that here in just a minute too. So the skills that they learn are also support the new ITSE student standards, specifically the creative communicator, digital citizen, knowledge constructor, innovative designer, and global collaborator. So it changes that conversation that you can have with students when they have an e-portfolio, when they can tie it to what they're doing in the classroom. They can share that with their future career opportunities, with their family and community. And now, if you work in a high school, I'm sure that you're very familiar that most of the scholarship processes are electronic. So sharing that link in a scholarship application really makes that student stand out. And we also have some longevity. They can take that e-portfolio with them into their professional portfolio. So it's very dynamic. It crosses over from education to professional careers and future. So that's all those reasons why it's very exciting to see students create e-portfolios. Now, when they create them, it also gives educators benefits. They see students' progress over time. They can evaluate their students' products and processes. It personalizes that learning experience. And it gives educators insights into how students can experience their classes. So it's really informative, more so than a paper test. So it's very exciting to see where students can take that kind of information.
Lori, it looks like you have a lot of people excited to hear step-by-step on how to create e-portfolios as we go further on.
Okay, terrific. And I see some questions about sound. If anybody is not hearing me, I hope that everyone is at this point. So we're going to just keep moving forward. I see here one that says, I don't hear any sound either, but I'm hopeful that it's corrected itself. If that continues, can someone please let me know? So let me check one more place just to make sure. All right, I'm not seeing anything else, so I'm hopeful that it's okay. All right, so step by step, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this area right here. This is an examples of e-portfolios that teachers, this would be primarily in the elementary stages. And what this might look like is, let's say you're second, third, fourth grade teacher. These tools, all three of them, have excellent resources where teachers create a classroom and then they add their students into that classroom. And then this teacher collects the artifacts, like we saw those young students working with that iPad, and they post those items for the students into their e-portfolio. So there are several options in each one of these tools that teachers can then invite the parents to see these artifacts from their student. So I just wanted to share briefly that works well for younger students. But where I would like to spend the rest of our time is in the student managed. These are some of the tools to create them, and we are going to get to the step-by-step process. But before you get started, you need to ask yourself these questions. For instance, what's my platform? Am I Chrome-based? Am I Microsoft Office-based? What's my platform? And which one of these tools is going to work best with that platform, the device my students are using? How much space do I think I'm going to need my students to have? Because several of these tools do have space limitations on their free versions. And each one of them has a little bit different functionality. And what kind of visibility and permissions do I want this e-portfolio to have? Is it for a younger student that I know I'm going to just have to keep with my parents, or can it be open for the web? And again, the last two questions are, is there longevity and can the ownership be changed? We're going to come back to a couple of these examples if we have time. But what I'd like to move forward to is the step-by-step. And let's look at this example. And the reason I want to make sure and open this example for you is because I know if you click on this, you're not going to be able to see this. And I did that on purpose because I want you to see that this student created this e-portfolio using a classic Google site and has limited permissions. So he's only shared this with me and his teacher and his parents. And so that's why you won't be able to access this from the presentation, but you will be able to see it in the recorded video and at present, of course. So the other key thing to remember, and I just want to make sure we point this out, is that if I click on one of his documents within this website, you can see I don't have permission for that document. So very important that whenever your students are adding their own items from their Google Drive, that the permissions in this document also match the permissions in the ePortfolio or the website. So I just leave that as a great example of how that works. Okay. I just also want to showcase this one because this was mentioned earlier today, again with the student panel, about 20 time. And this is an example of an art website that our 9th grader, a student, produced last year as part of our 20 time. She felt like the art wasn't being showcased at our high school. So she created this entire website with all these pages, and we're just going to look at one. She scanned these images and noted the credit on them. Okay, so just some quick examples of those type of, these are student created. These are templates that the classic Google site supports. And these are examples that the teachers make the templates and the students then add the content. Okay. When you're thinking about how to use an ePortfolio, this one in particular, we don't have time to open these, but all the rest of these you will be able to view. This one in particular covers a year-long history class. And the way the teacher structured this portfolio is with these assessments. This document should open for you. So the teacher created the template using a classic Google Sites. And then the students, well, this is the different, there are two options. In this scenario, they created a template and then the students grabbed that template. So as they progress through each unit, all the digital assignments in that unit are required to be posted to this ePortfolio to be graded. Any paper assignments for that class can be scanned and posted to the ePortfolio for extra credit. So throughout the semester, this is incentive for our students. They're going to get a grade plus extra credit opportunities for maintaining this ePortfolio. Then when we get to the semester exam and then the course exam, which will be 9 months of information, the students can use this ePortfolio as a resource for both of these exams. So what this teacher shared with me was that ePortfolios keep their students organized. It supports their own learning because they're building their own resource. They can showcase what they learned, they use their digital citizenship, and it's shared with an authentic audience. Okay, so I also included here some ideas on what to include in a homepage, in an ePortfolio, excuse me. I especially like on the homepage, or it could be on the About Me page, is an elevator speech. And this encourages your students to create a little video, 30 seconds, to sell themselves. And that's a skill that a lot of students need to learn how to develop, and what's most important, that they want to share about themselves. This is an editable document, so feel free to add any ideas that you have regarding ePortfolios and what you might think would work best for your students, so that everyone can benefit from that. So that link is on the presentation right here on what to include. So let's get started on the tools.
Lori, before we get started, we have a couple of questions. When you are saying artifact, are you simply referring to student work?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I think the rest of the questions you are probably going to get ready to get started, and we can come back to at the end. But that was the one that I think might have needed some clarification.
Okay. Yes. Artifact just is student work, digital, paper, scanned items, things like that they have produced. So artifact of their, or evidence of their learning, is what that's referring to.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Are we okay?
I think we're okay to continue.
Okay, terrific.
We'll ask the rest at the end. Okay.
All right, thanks, Patrice. Okay, so on this page right here, I've included the classic Google Sites and then the new Google Sites, which were just released last month. So it's a lot of information, and I know we're going to get short on time. Whoops, excuse me. So there are a couple of links here that you may find helpful. This is the link that's right underneath the classic, and it will open up this Google form that I created a couple years ago. And it's a 101 kind of tutorial. So let's say you're getting ready to start your new Google site. So I'm going to click that option and go to next. And this walks you through, how do I get started? There's a couple little screenshots, okay, on how to do that. So in this Google form, there's no required questions. You can navigate back and forth throughout this example. So if I want to change my template, I can just choose that option and go to next. Okay, and it gives you, using the classic Google Sites, on how to do that. And so classic Google Sites will still be available the rest of this school year. And last I heard, for the next year or so. So it's not going away anytime soon. If this is something you want to try this semester, it's definitely still an option. So again, that Google form is right here on the classic site help. Now on the new Google Sites. So this is a screenshot of an editing screen, and I can tell because I have these options right here. If you want to click on that image, it will take you to that actual new Google site. And the new Google Sites is great. Very, very, very user-friendly. It's very easy to work with. I focused on the student-created examples because with the new Google Sites, there are not templates at this point. So with the rollout, they did not include the templates, but as we know, there's always new things coming as the products are released. So it may be something that we see in the future. If you are thinking about starting an ePortfolio with a new Google site, you will have to begin the process with building it with your students. So you'll have to get them started and then tell them what pages you want to add. Okay? Because this is my site, I can edit from this pencil. And I've also included, we only have about 4 or 5 more minutes before we need to finish up here. So I'm probably going to move rather quickly, but this is the new Google Sites. And we have the option to insert things, the pages that are listed, which you can see across right here. As you add new pages, they are added to your navigation. You can have one level of subpages. So you can create those by dragging. So when I first add a page, it's going to add it to my navigation, but let's say I would like that to actually be a subpage here. I can drag it on top, and then you can see that that new page is underneath here. So just to flip back over to the presentation so that you know there is another, document here with some of the walkthrough steps that several of you asked about. So where do you find these new Google Sites? Well, what's exciting is that now you can create a new Google site from your Google Drive. And there's a quick screenshot of where you could find that on your Google Drive under New, then More, and Google Sites. Or if you access it from the classic sites, they've added a new option here at the bottom. And again, here's step-by-step the different areas in this ePortfolio. So if I was starting this with my students, and I've numbered each one of these, and things to keep in mind as you move through this ePortfolio, and the sharing and permissions in the new Google Sites. Just keep in mind, and this is a little screenshot here, your two options for sharing is either within your domain or anyone on the web. So in the past, there's been the option to share directly with an email, for instance, with parents, but that's not quite here yet and may be an option. You can always give feedback and they will take that request into consideration. So you'll have to carefully monitor that with the new Google Sites, okay? And you can unpublish your site, okay? Here's some future features, hopefully, that we'll see, and a reminder to send in some feedback. Let me go back here to the actual site, but it is very streamlined, as I said. It's very user-friendly. If you hover over different areas, it gives you your navigation options. So I just moved my navigation over here to the side from it was here at the top. And then if I want to add a section down here, you just double click and I can add a text box. So you would need to, if you're using Google Sites, walk through this process in class with your students. And then I can change my background. Just change it to this, okay? And you have different themes. There are a few, and they have different colors and different fonts and options here. So if I want to change my theme, simple enough. And if I change my header type, if I just want a title only, and you have the option of 2 different banners. So each page within your website can have a different type of a banner. I'm going to go back home, and you can see that my banner is as it was at the beginning. The other thing in closing, because I want to make sure we can get some questions in, is what I really like is if I choose this item and it has this little menu thing here, excuse me, I don't need to edit that. But if I choose to move it, you'll start seeing those grid lines. So you can align things very nicely on your page, okay? And so you just have to grab something and like move it around. The other option that's spectacular is the preview function. When you enter that, here's what it looks like on a desktop, a tablet, and a mobile phone. So it shows you what your website's going to look like, or your ePortfolio in all those different formats. And to exit that, go ahead and hit this exit preview to get back to your edit on your ePortfolio in the new Google Sites. Okay. Any other questions?
Lori, we have a couple of questions. Could you remind people how to access your presentation and the directions that you've created?
The directions. Was there particular directions? Was it for
the Google Sites, for setting up the templates? Are those links in your presentation?
They are in the presentation, and the presentation is on the Google EDU on Air site. If you go to the agenda and scroll down to where the 3 o'clock session. It should have my name listed. I believe I'm on the Anyone strand if you're on a desktop. And those two links are on the slide 15 for the classic sites and then the new sites.
Great, thank you. Scott is interested in knowing about setting permissions for Google Sites. Who should have the rights to set a site as public, the teacher or the student?
That's a good question. And it probably depends what grade level we're talking about. If it was a high school student who was a senior and getting ready to do some scholarships, it would need to be public on the web. But that's definitely a conversation that educators have to be comfortable with to encourage your students to be good digital citizens and make those decisions. But my go-to is usually I keep it within the domain, or I keep it private between the student and I. And it probably depends on your student's comfort level as well. If they feel like it's going to be really, if they're so uncomfortable with it being completely out on the web, that they're afraid, I would pull it back to where it's just the two of us. And many of our teachers maintain it that way. It stays just between the teacher and the student. And there might be an occasional opportunity to share with a parent. However, there is, you'll notice I have this early childhood right here, and I don't have a link there because we do have a preschool in our high school that is a career pathway. And we do have e-portfolios, but those are very private, and those capstone projects for the students stay that way. I hope that's helpful.
I think that's very helpful. If a teacher works in a school where Blogger and sites are not allowed, are there other options?
Absolutely. In fact, I was just going to go back here to the show. The Blue Valley School District in Kansas City maintains a career Center for Advanced Professional Studies, and these are their pre-service teacher e-portfolios, and this is using a Wix. And if you, we have their permission to share this, and it's some exciting work that all of these pre-service teachers have created. And when you click on one of these that has click here for an audio tour, the students have recorded themselves showcasing their portfolios. So it's just a great way, and this is using Wix, so it's a web tool that anyone could use in any platform.
That's fantastic. Do you have a recommendation for the best platform to use with elementary students?
Elementary students, I find that many teachers love Seesaw. So it's really awesome. Class Dojo is many people use for classroom behavior, and they've just added the e-portfolio function. And FreshGrade is also a new upcoming e-portfolio. I also like VoiceThread. It works really nicely on the iPads. So these 3 tools right here, I would highly recommend for elementary level.
And what about the middle school level?
Yeah, middle school is always interesting. Patrice, do you want to speak to that since you're in the middle school more than I am?
I think that we are having success using Google Sites at the middle school level. I feel that the students enjoy Google Sites, and it's been successful for us. So that's what we're using.
Okay. That would be my go-to, and especially with the new Google Sites as being so much a slick interface. I think they would be very comfortable with that.
Yes, it's easy for them to set up and manage. So
absolutely.
Do you see the younger students doing the student managed portfolios in the elementary school, the K through 5 students? Or do you view that more as teacher managed?
I view that more as teacher managed, definitely.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Lori.
All right. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon with this great opportunity for some incredible resources. And if you want to reach out, feel free to reach out to Patrice and I anytime. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.